Pledge of allegiance. Alderman Wood.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before I call for invocation, I just want everybody to keep in your prayers Mr. Lyle Folkman, who had surgery yesterday. Invocation. Ms. Stringfellow.
Thank you, Mayor. Everyone, bow your heads. Dear Lord, please help us tonight to make good decisions for the City of Crowley. And just guide us in our wisdom and knowledge. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Jeff Cabell,
Here.
Brad Core,
Here.
Clint Prater,
Here.
Bob Hogelman, Vernon Martin, Stephen Primo,
Here.
Sammy Reggie,
Here.
Kim Stringfellow,
Here.
and Byron Rose.
Here.
8 members present, 1 absent.
Thank you. Today on appearances, Ms. Stringfellow, would you like to introduce our guest, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We have Dr. Robert Erker here from the Acadia Parish Medical Society to speak to us regarding the COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you, that was quick. I didn't think I'd be first up. Hope you don't mind, but I am going to take off my mask because I'm 6 feet away and feel like I'm doing my social obligations. I want to thank Kim and Dr. Stringfellow for asking me to participate today. And if I haven't met all of y'all yet, I'm Robert Erker. I am an internist here in town. I've been out here 10 years now. And 9 years I have served as the City of Crowley Medical Society president, and the first 8 years were rather very social. Until this year, we have a much larger responsibility, and I'm glad I was able to take that on. I was asked initially tonight to essentially talk about some things that I have concerns for the community, and that's one of the main thrusts of my goal is to make sure that we have a good repository of knowledge, and I want to represent all the physicians that I've worked with the last several months, citywide, parish-wide, statewide, and even nationally and internationally I've done as well over the last 3 months. 3 or 4 major points I just want to bring up, and then I'll be absolutely happy to answer any questions anybody has. But I think the most important thing we need to realize with this issue, and no one in this room is not aware of this is completely new. I do not have all the answers. No physician has all the answers. No scientist has all the answers. And our entire world, community, on a social level, business level, societal level, has changed. One of the things I think we need to rely upon is, number one, our knowledge base as it expands from our scientists and physicians, but also to work with our community leaders to coordinate the importance of what we both understand from both sides. So there are 3, maybe 4 important threads I want to just highlight. and that is the threat I see that this virus is inflicting upon the fragile parts of our society, meaning the very old and the very sick, and sometimes very impoverished. The second is to be able to communicate and articulate with you all the importance we feel as a medical community, how this is threatening our work environments, how we can assist with that, and help you in terms of any questions or concerns you have for business, employment, commerce, etc. And then lastly, to take those first two concepts and apply it to the base or the safety net of all of this, and that is our healthcare system. Locally, I'm very proud of what we've done at the hospital. I've worked diligently with all the physicians here in town, Mr. Mitchell and Caroline Marceau, and then the Lafayette General staff, and then Dr. Tina Stefanski's been crucial, as well as some of the CMOs in Lafayette and Baton Rouge have helped me out as well. So I'll be happy to echo anything that they have in my knowledge base that y'all feel you have questions about. But the main thing is to control this, I'm going to use the word threat because I think it does threaten our independence, our lifestyle, but to make sure that we don't override our healthcare system on every level. And that's kind of where I would begin. Do I have a time limit? I don't want to exceed that. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the thing that I feel the most important part to impress upon everyone here tonight is initially when we thought this came out after Mardi Gras, which was maybe mid-late February, we saw a distinct pattern in the epidemiology. That means the spread of the disease and how it spread and to whom it spread and through whom it spread is, I think it mimics the I-10 and I-49 corridor. And I want to highlight that it's New Orleans, upcoming Baton Rouge, then Lafayette. And now I'm seeing, as of this morning when I got the latest statistics, that Shreveport has the highest number of occupied beds in the hospital for COVID, as well as close to the highest number of ventilated or life support patients. I'm furthermore seeing a significant increase in our community. I got a call about 3 weeks ago from Dr. Stefanski. She communicated her concern, and we of course had some outbreaks that can drastically, if those outbreaks are not controlled, affect our community. And so there's a difference between community spread and what we call aggregate spread, which is where you have folks in dormitories, closed door settings, like the nursing homes, etc. And so I just want to impress a statistic upon everybody, is that since probably March 3rd until May 10th, we had 156 cases in the entire parish. And within 1 month's time, we have increased from that number, about 156, to about 596, which is a 346% increase within 30 days. That strikes me as very concerning. Am I worried? I tell my patients, don't worry till I worry. But am I concerned? Absolutely. It is a very concerning issue because we have more cases in our nursing homes than we would like to see. We have more cases in certain sects of the population that we would like to see. And I'm still, as of today, diagnosing people from yesterday who have the disease. So it is not going anywhere that I can tell for the foreseeable future. And that is just the first phase of our concept of it. I'm not comparing the state phases, I'm talking about the physician or the scientific phase. Next year, just like the flu season, will be a whole other issue. We just don't know. We'll be relying on colleagues across the seas to give us some information. I think one of the main things I've got from the community is, and perhaps it's a lack of understanding, but that's what I'm here tonight to spread, is I think that everyone in public places, for right now in this parish, not as a mandate, that's not my job, but as from advice, and to control this, I think masks are very important. Do I think they stop the spread? No, I don't. I think they control the spread, and that's the most important thing. I have gotten different correspondences and conversations with some of my colleagues and even business owners around town about this importance. And I just want to present that to the council and see if there's anything that we can come up with for now and in the future that may be able to help us control this at this point and then moving forward. It's not that I think I can stop the virus from coming across the room and getting you or infecting you, but if I touch something and I have a simple mask on, it creates a reminder, a habit, a good idea of hygiene wherever you go. And if we can accomplish that, as I've seen in some businesses, offices, and hospitals, I think we're going to win in terms of controlling and slowing the spread of this down, and our numbers will start to fall. If I could show you the graph, it just keeps going up in the parish. And so I want us to really focus on that in the next couple of weeks. I want to present that to you tonight. In conclusion, because I think I've taken enough of your time, I think you understand my concern and the importance. I have two words with an equal sign in between. And make a slash through that equal sign, which means does not equal. And I think when you say rural, when you say immune, we are not immune to this. Large cities have had their fair share, but now I think it is our time to have to deal with some of the ramifications of this. So we are rural, but we are not immune to this. And part of my pledge to anyone in the room, and that's the reason I'm here tonight, is to be able to share with you all my knowledge and immunology, pathology, all those years of schooling. This is what we're here for, to control the disease, help the community out, and make sure that we thrive on a medical level and in society. So if you have any questions, sure. Yes, sir. It's great.
So what is your professional opinion? There's a march, a rally, whatever planned for this weekend, this Saturday in Crowley. A lot of people attending, hopefully. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's a good idea or a bad idea? What's your professional opinion on that?
Do you mind if I ask you a question about what type of march is it and how long do you expect it to be?
There's some people in this room that can answer that question for you. I'm not the one, but I'm sure Mr. Martin or Mr. Village Man, there's a few people in here that could probably answer that for you.
And so my point is it involved indoors? Because indoor issues are...
Outdoors.
It's outside? Okay. I think the next big question is, and I'm going to go back to basically one concept with three parts, and that is time, space, and face. I just made that up. That's to help you remember. So time, space, and face. If you're outside in space, or let's go time, 15 minutes is what we have been seeing internationally, how long it takes for you to be in an unprotected environment. If you're within 15 minutes of someone without a mask, that puts you at the next level of risk, which is medium. Okay? Outdoors is different. Outdoors decreases that risk. But if you're indoors, you don't have a mask, and you're more than 15 minutes, that's where we start to get concerned. And that's where I tell my patients, just like the national NIH and CDC, that's when we test you right off the bat, whether you have symptoms or not. So to answer your question directly, as I said, it's time, space, and face. If you have a mask on, it's the same good hygiene habit. Otherwise, if this is an outdoor event and folks are appropriately separated, the 6-foot rule, which is just based off of sneezing, believe it or not, I think that's where that data and evidence comes from. Marches, things of that nature, everyone sometimes is emotional, they hug, they hold hands. I'm not telling everyone to be unemotional, but again, you just violated your space. So, that's my advice. Other questions?
Thank you. We have a proclamation for you and the healthcare workers in bold. So I'd like to read it to everyone. Proclamation, whereas those who've chosen the healthcare profession as their calling serve their communities with a reverence for human life and individual dignity. And whereas our nation is experiencing one of the worst pandemics in its history as a result of the novel coronavirus. And whereas physicians, nurses, health aides, EMTs, and others who work in healthcare are dedicated to relieving pain and suffering, especially during this pandemic, while risking their own lives and the well-being of their families. And whereas the sick of our community, whether afflicted with the novel coronavirus or suffering with another illness, are treated and tended to by devoted healthcare workers who surround and support our sick loved ones when family is not allowed by their loved one's bedside. And now, therefore, I, Tim Monso, Mayor of the City of Crowley, Acadia Parish, Louisiana, and the Crowley Board of Aldermen, do hereby honor and extend our deepest thanks and gratitude to the healthcare workers of our community for their heroic efforts and in recognition of their spirit, love, and healthcare skill provided to their fellow man during the COVID-19 pandemic. And further, I encourage all residents of Crowley to acknowledge our healthcare workers for their devotion to the health and well-being of our citizens.
Thank you for having me here tonight. I pledge my works, my duties, my diligence. If y'all need anything going forward, please feel free to reach out to us.
Thank you, Dr. Worker. Ms. Stringfellow is also a healthcare worker, and her husband, Dr. Stringfellow, I think is here as also. There he is. Thank you, Doc. At this time, I'd like Chief Broussard and Chief Romero to come up, please. Mr. Cord, would you come up, please? As our public safety chairman, would you do the honors?
My pleasure. Thank you, Mayor. Whereas the City of Crowley has a police department and fire department comprised of dedicated men and women who often entail considerable personal risk and sacrifice in the normal course of their duties and responsibilities. And whereas these firefighters and policemen bring prompt, highly skilled assistance to citizens and victims of emergencies and play a leading role in promoting public safety. And whereas these policemen and firefighters endure what are sometimes long and unpredictable hours, a burden shared by the loved ones who must cope with worry and waiting. They all frequently call to put themselves in harm's way to protect the lives and property of others. And whereas the dedication of the firefighters and policemen during the COVID-19 pandemic caused by the novel coronavirus has been exemplary and should be recognized and commended. And now, therefore, I, Tim Monso, Mayor of the City of Crowley, Acadia Parish, Louisiana, and the Crowley Board of Aldermen, do hereby honor and extend our deepest thanks and gratitude to the Crowley Police Department and Crowley Fire Department for their tremendous efforts in recognition of their service to the community during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you, Mr. Cord. Thank you, Chiefs. And thank you, doctors and nurses and healthcare workers. Okay, approval of the minutes for the council meeting held on May 13th.
So
Offered by Mr. Primo, seconded by Mr. Wilridge.
Aye.
Moving right into the sales tax chart. The sales tax chart, we did not get the numbers for April yet. It shows May, but this is not May, this is actually March, and that is the 1.13. And we are waiting on April's numbers, and hopefully we'll get it in the next week to 2 weeks. Look at the next chart is the user fee chart. So we have an increase, and of course, that is with the increase that was made of the sewer user fee, and I want to say that does reflect April, huh? Yes. 3.42. And the next budget analysis, on the expenditures, we ought to be at about 66.64, and we are at probably an average of about 61, which is good. Okay, we'll move right into standing committee reports. Public Works Committee, Mr. Pritchett.
Thank you, Mayor. The Public Works Committee convened Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020, at 4 p.m. in the council chambers, and a quorum was present. Under action items, there were none. And under non-action items, the Public Works Director, Mr. Albert John's monthly Public Works report was read by myself. Street Commissioner, Mr. Gilbert Ozing's monthly Street Department report was read by myself. And the City Engineer, Mr. Tim Mader, presented the monthly engineer's report. There was no further business to come before the Public Works Committee, and the committee recessed. At this time, I'd like to amend the agenda to discuss the Crowley Cemetery. Okay.
You'd like to amend the agenda for a discussion?
Discuss the Crowley Cemetery.
If there's no action, no, sir, unless you have an action to take on that particular item.
Point of order,
It's a report.
point of order. Was the question asked, is there any agenda amendments to, wasn't asked? Mayor, with all due respect, the open meeting law states that before anything can be,
Microphone.
I don't know what noise, I guess it gave me the word, don't work, don't hurt. Okay. According to Robert's Rules of Order, when the meeting is opened up to the public has a right to ask questions, ask their council person to amend in their favor or against whatever the situation is. And if the question is not asked, that means that you are going against the open meeting law. And I ask the question again, so this way I will not mislead anyone. Was the question asked? Is there any amendments to the agenda that needs to be taken place? So therefore, I have no reason to doubt the fact that the only reason why my colleague is asking to be amended, because this is the only way of getting whatever you have to ask on the agenda.
Mr. Martin, on the contrary, he asked a question for a discussion. It is not on the agenda, and if you want to amend the agenda, we can take a vote on amending the agenda, but it does not claim action.
Yeah, he stated there was no action.
There is no action, and that's correct. It does not claim any action, so we do not have anything to act upon at this particular meeting on that particular subject.
Yeah, the question was, and should have been, is there any amendments to the agenda? That was not asked. Only thing that my colleague is trying to do is have a question asked and answered. Now,
And you know as well as I do, Mr. Martin, that you stick to the agenda unless you want to amend the agenda.
well, that's what he asked, and you told him
And
no.
it does not direct action. It is discussion. There is no action to be heard at this particular meeting on that subject.
I'll let you clarify, but I want to clarify what I just said. The question was to amend the agenda. Had he been forward the right to at the beginning of the meeting,
And I answered his question. I asked the question with the question. I asked him if there
you don't
were,
answer a question with a question.
Mr. Martin,
I yield.
yes, sir.
That's okay, Ms. So would you accompany me tomorrow morning to the Crowley Cemetery? I'd like to show you some open tombs where you can see open coffins inside. And I'm just wondering just wondering who's responsible for that, which is a simple question. It wasn't anything against
Well,
somebody.
Mr. Crater,
Thank
I'll
you.
be there.
yeah, Mr. Crater, you know what, you could come by the office or call the office, or you can come by City Hall, and we would be glad to answer that question, and you probably know that question already. Okay, yes, sir, we can do that, yes, sir. All right,
There was no further business to come before the Public Works Committee and the committee recessed. Thank you.
next, Utility Committee, Mr. Martin.
This time I'd like to yield for the situation. I was a little late and it was read into the minutes which the vice chair had, so I'll go ahead and yield to the vice chair to read into it, please. Thank you.
The Utility Committee convened Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020 at 4 p.m. in the council chambers. Quorum was present. Under action items, there was none. Under non-action items, the wastewater superintendent, Tim Crater's monthly wastewater report was read by myself. City engineer Tim Mader presented his monthly engineer's report, and there was no further business to come before the Utility Committee, and the committee recessed.
Thank you, Mr. Reggie. Next we have Recreation Committee, Mr. Primo.
Thank you, Mayor. Recreation Committee convened Wednesday, June 3rd. There were no action items. Under non-action items, Recreation Director Peter Kirsch's monthly Recreation Department report was read by Chairperson Stephen Primo. Chairperson Primo stated there were only 2 constituents who submitted comments to City Hall to be addressed by the Recreation Committee. The comments were received via email and were from Miss April Mixon and Mr. Tracy Young. Both addressed their concern that the Recreation Department, particularly the baseball fields, are remaining closed when other facilities following guidelines are open. The mayor addressed the concern and referred to the Recreation Director's report, stating an effort is being made to have a condensed version of a season and guidelines to ensure the safety of our children. No specific date has been set for reopening the baseball and softball fields at this time, but will be announced soon. Tim Mader, city engineer, presented the monthly engineer's report. There were no further business to come before the Recreation Committee, and the committee recessed.
Thank you, Mr. Primo. Under zoning and annexation, Mr. Martin.
Zoning and Annexation Committee convened Wednesday, June 3rd. Quorum was present. Under action items, a motion was offered by Alderman Stephen Primo and seconded by Alderman Samuel Reggie to authorize the mayor to proceed with request of the City of Crowley Planning Commission to review a refining of the northern boundaries of the South Crowley Gateway Overlay District, moving the northern boundaries from area near John and John overpass to Cedar Street. Motion carried on that, and at the time he moved.
Okay. Discussion?
Second.
Second, I'm sorry. Second by Mr. Primo. Offered by Mr. Martin. Yes, sir, Mr.
I'd like to amend the motion, if you may, Mr. Mayor, to include the west corridor starting at Avenue E, ending at Avenue D on the west side, north of West 2nd Street, those 2 blocks on the west corridor. I'd like to exclude out of the gateway.
Would you repeat that?
I was trying to get a better description. It's basically the two northeastern portions of the Western Gateway, which would include the blocks between avenues C and D and E.
Okay. Seconded by Mr. Reggie. Discussion. I don't know who was first.
So how many blocks does that cover, Joe? Do you know roughly?
Two.
So we're adding 2 more blocks to it?
No, you're eliminating 2 blocks.
Well, that's what we're adding, 2 more blocks to the amendment. Okay.
Ford?
Mayor, the council previously discussed this matter on several occasions, and it was decided that Mr. Reagan would amend the Gateway Overlay Ordinance to allow variances therein. As I understand, we were supposed to have a public hearing, and Chairperson Fogelman moved to table the public hearing because Mr. Reagan wasn't present. And so we have that still pending, and I think that adding this additional amended ordinance is muddying things up, where we simply need to have a public hearing and move forward, and I think allowing the variance in the gateway will accomplish the goal of permitting these type of uses within the gateway ordinance as originally planned throughout the entire city, and gives the council, of course, the authority to set restrictions on those particular variances as they come before us.
And actually, this is particularly an authorization to allow the planning and zoning commission, the planning commission to be able to review it. It's not about changing anything tonight. It's just about moving this forward to the planning commission to allow them to review it if it's even all possible. Mr. Prater.
And so back on December 11th, 2019, I have the ordinance that a motion was to amend the agenda was made by Mr. Fogelman and seconded by Mr. Gravel. And the ordinance clearly stated that an ordinance to amend and reenact section 3.1407 of Article 3 of the zoning ordinance by the City of Crowley by repealing section 3.1407 prohibited uses and amending and reenacting that said section to provide for a public hearing for special or conditional uses, variances or waivers, requirements, restrictions, or conditions of the special gateway overlay district, to provide for the provisions hereof, to be severable, to repeal all ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent thereto or in conflict therewith, and to provide for all other matters relative or pertaining thereto. So it seems like we've already discussed this. We have an ordinance or
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Prater, was there a conclusion about it? Was there a table?
but we've never, I don't know, I think it's illegal as far as I'm concerned. I don't know. It's since December 11th we did this, and I don't think we've ever heard anything yet. Somebody may be able to.
She's good. Miss Crater is going to bring it up. She has it on her minutes at that time. And I think what Mr. Cole was saying, that I think is proper or appropriate. And there was a discussion, and it was tabled not once but twice. It was tabled not the same subject, but at a later date it was tabled again, because it was, I guess, resurrected and attempted again. And that was at the time that Mr. Krieger, I think, that was at the time Mr. Reagan, I think, was sick at the time. And him and Mr. Fogelman were going to discuss it further. I'm sorry.
Yes, I believe at the January 6th meeting, it was brought up as the public hearing was supposed to be set on January 6th, at which time, prior to, it was tabled. And it never came back up in February. Then COVID happened. It's coming up now. I agree with what Mr. Core stated as far as appropriate, bringing this back up in its appropriate form as a public hearing. I don't think we can do that with an amendment to this type of resolution. It would have to come up at either the committee meeting or already, if Mr. Mayor talked to potentially legal to see if it could automatically come up on the next council meeting as a public hearing. But this, what we're doing here should not really muddy the waters per se. If we get this done, it actually is kind of a safety net in some fashion, depending on what the public hearing and ultimate vote would be.
And it has to be, according to Mr. Reagan, it also has to be reviewed by the planning commission before it can even go further.
Point out that, I'm trying to streamline this to allow these variances to let new business come in as quickly as possible, and we don't need to go and rewrite another ordinance when we have one sitting there just ready to go for a public hearing. I think we can get this accomplished quicker. Also, keep in mind that Mr. Reagan did tell us that he felt that it was, like a word, discriminatory to be able to change one area of the gateway in one section or two sections and not all sections. So, and my third thought on that is by just taking one section of the gateway south of the 13 bridge to allow any use in there, which is something like industrial, I think that would just open the door to working against what the gateway is intended for. I'd rather see the council have an oversight on having that total gateway that comes into the city up to the John Bridge without a gap in it, to have contiguity of the type of use and view of these properties that we want to encourage within the city. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Martin?
But first of all, if you remember when this was brought up, I objected to it. This council is a governing body. You legislate, make laws. We don't go to the pretty side of town and say because it's the pretty side of town, you're going to be excluded from getting the same thing that the bad or the ugly side of town. And I'm just using that as a cliche, not to say that there's anything like that. First of all, you can't amend something that never happened. The ordinance is still illegal. You can't add on to something that has not been discussed through the public hearing. Have we had the public hearing yet? Okay. So how can this body move from A to B without getting permission to move A to B? And I keep hearing this about the planning commission. With all due respect to the planning commission does not have any power. They are a review board. Okay? This council makes the decisions on whether things happen or not. So before you go amending and asking questions, let the people come here that it's going to affect. But we don't know how these people feel. We don't know if we have to call the Department of Justice to see if we are violating their civil rights. You understand? By taking them in or out of the gateway. We don't even know what the gateway is going to look like until we actually get it done. So, with all due respect, and Brad, I want to compliment you on this one right here because at the end of the day, you don't trample on people's feelings. We can do it, but it gets you nowhere. And to add something to something that's non-existent, that's not healthy. Thank you.
Mr. Bell?
First off, this is not an ordinance. Only ordinances need a public hearing. This would not change anything. We're still going to accept the public hearing. Okay? If this actually goes through, my understanding, we would still have to come back to us to be changed by ordinance, at which time we can either accept or not accept if we're moving on with the other aspect by variance or conditional use. You understand what I'm saying?
Conditional use.
Yeah, that's what the initial proposal or the public hearing is supposed to be, variance or conditional use. So for instance, if somebody who in the gateway wanted to build something that's normally restricted, they go before the planning committee. They ask for a variance or a conditional use. They get the variance based on the conditions that is set. They come before us, we either vote yea or nay on it. Okay? This is basically doing the same thing. We're bringing to the planning commission. If they agree to it, it comes to us to change the ordinance. Which at time, if we agree to it, we have to call for a public hearing.
But
So,
why could the cat the horse behind the car?
because at the time, it looked like there wasn't going to be anything done about it, And we're trying to move forward with somebody who actually wants to start, building businesses within these areas. We're trying to unhandcuff the people who want to make businesses in Crowley, things that we want to promote. Economic development.
I understand and respect what you're saying. But you ever thought about the fact that maybe someone that don't want anything done?
That's what they have public hearings for.
Correct.
That's what
We add on to, you put meat into the gumbo, and the water hasn't even started to boil yet. So I would ask you to do this.
You want to put the public hearing before the process. We have to go through the process in order to get to the public hearing.
But we have an ordinance in place right now. It's in place. That's in place. Let's deal with this ordinance, and then we move to something else. Before you can amend the ordinance, you gotta make the ordinance. What you're saying is you wanna come in and change things now, so when it does become, part of the discussion of the council, this is not involved. It's for the simple reason,
That's not what I said.
But that's what you're doing.
You understood me. I'm sorry. I asked if you understood me, and now you wanted to say, you want to paraphrase what I'm saying, it's not what I said. So let me again explain, okay? This, as read, is to go authorize the mayor to proceed with the request of the City of Crowley Planning Commission to review the redefining. Okay? There's nothing action other than for the planning commission, who still has to come before us after their findings.
didn't you use the term amend?
I amended this
You used the
motion
term amend, to add.
to this motion, not to an ordinance. We're not dealing with an ordinance right now.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna speak on behalf, start from the top. Because unless I was the only one that misunderstood you, and I don't think I did misunderstand you for the simple fact, I thought you was planning on adding to something that has not even been developed yet. Okay?
But I was following Robert's Rule of Order, as you referred to earlier. We had a motion, I amended the motion. I wasn't amending anything but what's written here.
But what's the difference from you amending and your colleague amending?
No,
Because that's an agenda as opposed to a motion.
Say that again, because I didn't understand what you just said.
This is the action item at hand. I was amending the action item. Okay? We've moved on to forward to this here. So let's stay with this and stay on task here.
But I asked the question again. What gives you the power to amend when we just had a colleague ask to amend and he couldn't do it? I just asked the
All
question.
right, there is a motion, all right, there is a motion on the floor. We have discussion, like, all in favor,
Aye.
opposed?
Nay. Roll call.
Okay, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Jeff Cabell,
Yes.
Brad Ford,
No.
Clint Prater,
No.
Lyle Coleman, Vernon Martin,
No.
Stephen Primo,
Yes.
Sammy Renzi,
Yes.
Kim Stringfellow. No. And Byron Lewis.
No.
5 noes. 3 yeses.
Stands up with this. And zoning and annexation of Mr. Martin. Please continue. Under non-action items.
Under non-action item, city engineer Tim Maynard presented the monthly engineering report, and there be nothing further before the zoning and annexation committee recess.
Okay, before we close this committee, Mrs. Nell, Kagan, am I saying that right? No, ma'am? Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk.
Mayor, may I make one suggestion that we move forward with the initial process that Mr. Reagan was moving forward with, and have the public hearing as soon as possible to accommodate these new businesses.
We
that
will
are
break
on.
it up at our next available meeting.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes. Yes, sir, Mr. Reddy.
So since the amendment to the motion failed, we go back to the original.
I have a question of clarification.
I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah. All right, so we go back. And Mr. Martin, would you read that original motion, please?
A motion was offered by Alderman Stephen Tremo and seconded by Alderman Samuel Reggie to authorize the mayor to proceed with requesting the City of Crowley Planning Commission review a redefining of the northern boundaries of the South Crowley Gateway Overlay District, moving the northern boundaries from the area near the John and John overpass to Cedar Street. The motion carried, and our chair.
Okay. Second. Yes, to move on. You have to move.
No, it's not good, none. All you have to do is to read the
No,
motion.
this is the original. Already second. Okay. All right, it's already done, already done. But, no, the original one right here, that's what we're doing. We're gonna vote on this original one right here. No, we're going back to the original. Okay. All in favor? I'm sorry, discussion, yes, it's coming, I'm sorry. Mr. Prater?
Yeah, I just want to clarify that I don't think anybody's opposed to businesses. What we're opposed to is the one-offs. So what this does, the ordinance does, is gives the council control over the overlay districts. Whereas if we one-off and say that any businesses can open up from this point to this point, and we do away with that section of the overlay district, it seems like we're being biased and we're doing things again that we've done in the past where we do these one-offs and we say, okay, you can have 30 days, you can do this, you can do that. So by all means, we're not opposed to businesses. What we would like to have is more control over what kind of businesses establishes in those areas, in the overlay district area. So this ordinance would do that. If we give away the right for us to have any control over that section or any sections of the overlay district, then those sections are out of our control then. So I just think that this ordinance is where we need to be, in my personal opinion, instead of these one-offs, because guess what? Next time somebody's gonna want to amend the overlay district on the north side, on the west side, on the east side, somewhere else, and then we're gonna have the same issue. But if we pass this ordinance and we get this done, then we'll be able to say, yeah, that business should be there, no, it should not be there. So that's the only thing I'm saying, is that's why I like this ordinance instead of carving out sections of the overlay. My opinion.
I'm not disagreeing, but I also, in fact, that I'm trying to be more pro-business by opening up areas that are now closed to businesses, okay? Globally, not on a specific one-to-one basis, that from what I've been in discussion with Mr. Tom, on an individual basis like that, we'll now be discriminating on whether this person can have a business here, this person wants the same type of business in this one, and we tell them no. We say, oh, why? Same reasons Mr. Martin said. It's in a good time side of town, it's close to the bad side. You're gonna allow that type of business on the bad side, but not on the good side. You set yourself up more for litigation on that sort of, than if you open it up totally, globally, as we're trying to do with the boundaries. That's why we're doing, that was my understanding with the boundaries. You know, all I know is there's people that have been waiting to get businesses in the area moving, and things have been bogged down because of just, no one wants to make a decision.
Mr. McDonald?
Thank you, Mayor. You know, we passed something in December talking about things being delayed, and we're in June. And I realize things have happened, but, you know, the delay is not this council, I don't believe. And that's all I want to say.
No, in fact, it is not this council's delay. We have constituents that want to get things done. We've been pushing to get things done. We're waiting on our legal counsel to move forward with public hearing. Regarding the zoning variance that we want to implement, Mr. Bell, right now, in the city of Crowley, in any zoning, we have the ability to provide a zone, a variance or conditional use. We just did that a few months ago for use in the residential district. So to say that we are hampering business, no, we are opening up, and by only allowing a 3-block area with one section of town to get out of the overlay, we still have the overlay in place, and we have no control over those areas. Again, we have variances within the areas that are not within overlay. That is legal, that has been a standard throughout the United States for years, and there's no reason why we can't have a variance within those areas where the overlay district is. Thank you.
I'd also like to make it a point that you were the one who was also questioning making that business available in the historic district, okay? Not allowing that, so if that type of business, you're against it in the historic district, but you'd be okay for it somewhere else, you know? No, wait, the rationale was, as long as, you know, I asked Mr. Thomas Bell, why would that be any difference? It's because it was still within the confines of the historic district and the framework of what distinguishes the historic district. Okay, so I'm not against. In fact, you know very well, I was for the variance and conditional use. This doesn't stop that from going on. My point is that the conditional if the variance and conditional use doesn't happen to go through, this is already in play. That's my point. If we don't want to do this after we get a favorable public hearing, we move this and drop this. We can always have 2 players at one time. I'm just trying to avoid a continual hindrance of economic development. We have, and frankly, you know, we don't want to point fingers, but that, you know, the public hearing would have gone through on a January 16th, but prior to, it was the council that tabled it. No one else, the council did. Okay? Why didn't make it back up on the February agenda? I can't answer that, but it was the council's actions that tabled the issue. So, I'm not against this. I'm not against the variance of conditional use, but I don't see why both can't be played at the same time.
The boundaries of the overlay district have been set. Those have been set and been in place for years. We don't need to double the task of having the variance and change the boundary. Just leave the boundary where it is, let the variance cover the entire overlay. And another point on the, what I opposed with, it's not just in the historic district, it was in a single-family residential district. And you're allowing a use that would normally be within a light industrial or commercial within a single-family residential area. So that's why I opposed it, even though the council approved it, that's fine, we all have our opinions. Thank you.
Okay. All right, still we have a motion on the floor, of the original motion, and a motion was offered.
I'm waiting.
A motion was offered by Mr. Stephen Greenwald, second by Alderman Sammy Reggie, to authorize the mayor to proceed with requesting the City of Crowley Planning Commission review. And so now and the motion was carried, and then we already had a second, and we had discussion. So we just need to have a vote on this particular motion.
No, I'm still here for discussion.
Okay, go ahead.
First of all, I don't want to call anybody character to speak, but he has a vote just like every last one of us, and pointing out what he wanted to do, as if that would change the minds of the other 8, 9, or whatever here. That was really unprofessional. Because at the end of the day, he represents his district. We represent, everybody here represents their district. So the constituent has to come and ask for something It's our job to bring it to this body. Problem is, they're telling us we confused. We're not confused. Every time we ask for something, we don't get it. When the overlay was brought up, there were questions. I even brought up the fact that the Department of Justice might have to look into some of these things because there's a NIMBY issue that's there, not in my backyard. If your constituent told you, I don't want that business in your district, and you come to me and say, Step Martin, this is my opinion. I would like to have your vote because in my district, my constituents don't want it. I'm gonna give you my vote because you know what your constituents want and need. Okay? I don't think we as a council should be pointing fingers at one another for doing our job. And if you don't get your way, then all of a sudden you want to throw up a flag. Leave the flag on the ground. It was on the ground at the beginning, leave it there now. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, ain't nobody here gonna bully me into voting their way unless I see fit to do so. And at the end of the day, we all elected. The same way we came in, it's the same way that we can leave out. So, I'm gonna tell this to you, right? What you say is true. At the end of the day, you don't want no lapse into government. Okay? And that's what he's trying to do. I mean, you can amend all day, but at the same day, I ask the question, what's the difference from you amending than the amendment coming, you follow what I'm going? So let's all come together right now and just say that when the time comes, our opinion will be heard and directed to the persons that it needs to be directed to. And if the council sees fit to give that person a favorable up or even an unfavorable down, guess what? We've done our job. Thank you.
Motion on the floor. I need the vote call, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Roll call, please.
Jeff Lavelle,
Yes.
Brad Ford,
No.
Frank Prater,
No.
Carter Martin,
No.
Stephen Primo,
Yes.
Sammy Regis,
Yes.
Tim Stringfellow,
No.
and Byron Lewis.
No.
5 noes, 3 yeses.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, Mr. Martin, you may close.
Then I thought I was close.
You were.
Okay. There'll be nothing further to come before the annex, zoning annex, committee, meeting.
Thank you very much. Public Safety, Mr. Core.
Thank you, Mayor. The Public Safety Committee convened Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020 at 4 p.m. in the council chambers. The quorum was present. Under action items, a motion was offered by myself and seconded by Alderman Stephen Primo to approve the following 2020 beer and liquor licenses. We had a new request for a Class A retail beer permit from Southside Cajun Kitchen LLC, represented by Todd J. Leonard's, 518 South Eastern Avenue. The motion carried, and I so move.
Offered by Mr. Core, seconded by Mr. Stringfellow. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
Under non-action items, Chief of Police David Broussard presented the monthly police department report. He reported that he had a meeting today to plan for a Saturday, June 13th march and rally, identified as One Heart, One Mind, One Crowley. Plans are for it to start at 10 a.m. Several groups have been meeting to discuss the rally, and the plan is for a group to meet at the park across the street from St. Teresa's Church and a group to meet at League Park. Both groups would walk towards North Parkinson and meet up and walk along towards the courthouse. With permission of the police jury, a small program will be held on the courthouse lawn. Interim Fire Chief Terry Romero's written report was read to the committee by myself, and Code Enforcement Officer Tony Duhal's written report was read to the committee by myself. There was no further actions come forth from the Public Safety Committee, and the committee recess.
Thank you. Public Buildings?
I have a question for clarification. Hi, the Southside Kitchen, is this for the 2019 year or 2020? Because
Should be 2020,
because it says right here, date sale beer starter will at this address, it says 2019. On the next page, it says that, or somewhere on it, it says it's for 2019. It was originally approved on 10/14 and 19 by Jimmy, and then later approved on 5/28/2020. So I was just trying to get some clarification. Is this for last year or for this year?
We can confirm that for you in the morning.
It says beer to be issued for calendar year ending December 31st, 2019. And I know they were not open last year, so I was just looking for some clarification.
It's got to be 2020, but we can clarify that for you first thing in the morning.
Well, I just wanted to make sure because the paperwork's wrong.
Yes, thank you so much for pointing that out. The signatures are on May of 2020. I'm glad you brought that out.
Well, because we had that issue happen with the board that had the wrong year, so I'm just trying to.
If you typographical error, we can confirm that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
That's the press that just recognized this. I don't think we can go forward with this application. Mr. Chief? Yes. I would say, and this is with ATL. I don't think we can go forward with this until that date is remedied, because believe it or not, that's a year that you will have permission from the state to sell liquor and beer or whatever else you may sell.
See it? Want to see it?
Yeah,
Chief?
I'm looking at it right here.
No, Chief.
Oh, Chief, oh, yeah.
And I will say this, I did not notice that, my apologies on that. It does say 19, it may be a clerical error. I know my part of it was, and I know like Madam Clerk's was to make sure they were up to date on their sales tax. Mr. Duyon's was to make sure the building was correct. Mine was to make sure they didn't have a criminal record, which was done and approved by us, but yeah, I'm looking at that now. I don't know.
I can maybe state I don't know for certain, but I know she questioned, I think they brought it in maybe before and they just didn't open till later. I'm not 100% sure. It was Hannah that handled it, but she recently asked me about it, and I think with all the COVID and
Right, and
stuff,
I believe you're right, Madam
kinda
Clerk, because now that you say that, I think they brought it in early so that they could open like March 1st or something like that, or some, you know. And then the COVID came about and everything was shut down, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes, sir, and if I'm not mistaken, there was a fire marshal delay as well.
Okay, so that may be
the lapse of.
the lapse of the time, right.
Is the owner here?
No, sir.
Is legal here?
Mr. John is not here. We can come back to that if you'd like. I can check with legal real quick.
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Chief, Mr. Mayor, we can move forward with this. If it's just a clerical error, it's a clerical error until there's, it's a date issue. I would propose that, at which time, tomorrow, verify. If anything after that, it can be reissued, come back to council next month. That's my proposal.
And
But
again,
to stop business from being able to continue on, because of clerical error, I think is.
everything got shut down, and even fire marshal and ATF and all of these other branches were shut down. And I think, don't quote me, but I believe that was the reason for the delay on it.
Set it up as a contingency.
Yes.
You can set it up as a contingency, and if it is a clerical error, we'll correct the clerical error. And if it's not, we'll bring it back up at next month's meeting.
Great. We amend the motion for
So
that,
just
just to recognize,
to recognize the contingency, but
yes.
it was already done in committee, now we're doing that meeting.
Yeah, but even though it was done in committee, if it was done wrong, it's done wrong at this meeting. We don't have the power to allow them to sell liquor. I don't know if it's just beer itself.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Craig.
Could you check with legal and make sure, because I would be open, I think everybody else would be open to a special meeting tomorrow, day after, because we don't, and I agree with Mr. Cavell, we don't want to hamper this business for another month while we pity-patter about whether it's a clerical error or not. So if we could get legal, and if it is a problem, and we can have a special meeting in a day or two, then I'd be open to come back and do that, so this business doesn't sit for another month without being able to sell it.
I just wanted clarification because we had that issue before and I didn't want them to get done for 19 and we're actually in 20 and then have to pay again or something. So while it's not voted on or done, I wanted to make sure that we just changed the date because I'm positive they weren't open last year. Because they didn't open until like the COVID started, so, or after, so March or April. So I just wanted some clarification for that. Thank you.
And you are correct, I went by Friday before last and met with Mr. Leonard's, and he did confirm that he had not opened until.
I just don't want the same thing to happen that happened to the previous board that was functioning with no liquor license for a year. I
Yes.
just wanted some clarification.
No, we thank you.
We thank you for recognizing that type of.
Mr. Reagan says move forward with it, and if it's clerical error, you correct it and issue it, and we move forward.
Thank you.
Sorry about the delay.
The Public Business Committee,
But we got the vote, we didn't vote yet. Whenever that was brought out. You did vote?
Yeah,
Did you vote?
just keep up after the discussion. I thought it was.
Okay, all right. Just make sure you got a vote. Okay, all right. Okay.
the Public Business Committee convened.
Public buildings, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
The Public Business Committee convened on Wednesday, June the 3rd, 2020, at 4 p.m. in the council chamber of Congress present. Item 1, to consider co-sponsoring a farmers market with One Crowley to be held at the building known as Wells Fargo Building on the corner of East First and Northern Parkinson on June the 20th, 2020. With the second weekend being Saturday, July the 11th, in 2020, and other Saturday from that point until October 31st, 2020. Is Mr. Rickon? I think Mr. Rickon.
Okay.
Thank you all very much for hearing us tonight, Mr. Mayor, Council. First and foremost, before we go forward, if it pleases the council, I, as the chairman of One Crowley, would like to issue a sincere thank you, a gratitude to this entire council and the administration for their continued efforts in support of One Crowley. In the month of April, every single one of you council members and administration stepped up and helped us and supported us whenever we had our drive to feed the less fortunate in town. Just to give you an update on that, we raised over $10,519 in private donations and business donations and fed over 450 families just in Crowley during that month. I would also like to issue a sincere gratitude and thanks to the council and to the mayor and the administration for for your help and support of One Crowley for the 2020 Crowley High Senior Graduation Parade. It was a huge success. We had over 80% of the graduates actually attend. Kind of funny about that, whenever I talked to one of the school administrators, he said he doubted they would have that many at the actual graduation. So it was a huge success, and that is all thanks to every single one of you who helped us out, came out, supported us both that day, and in just support throughout the time. A special thank you to Alderman Cavell for coming out that day and helping us with boots on the ground that day. Thank you, sir. We all appreciate it. Thank you. Again, it was a huge success. I am still receiving messages to this day, in fact, today, encouraging us and asking us to do this on an annual basis for every senior class in the future. Cannot make a commitment on that yet. We need to see exactly what happens further on as far as that's concerned. Which brings us to why we're here today. Our next project at hand is we're requesting the use of the Wells Fargo building and the city to co-sponsor a farmers market for us to have there. The mission of One Crowley is to bring Crowley together as one. As one, we're a lot stronger than any individual. And we feel that having a farmers market every other Saturday and having a location and an event that can bring all of Crowley together is something that can be beneficial not only to small businesses in Crowley, but also people who have gardens, arts and crafts, woodworking, hobbies. It can be beneficial to them as well as the public as a whole, bringing them together in an area that they may not normally come together at. We're asking for the city to co-sponsor this and let us use the Wells Fargo building and property for the farmers market.
Okay.
In case anyone does have a question, we are 501c3 certified. The mayor does have all the paperwork concerning that. I sent that to Ms. Jones whenever I requested to be put on the agenda. We do have our tax ID number, and we are 501c3 recognized.
Yes, you are. My only concern, and thank you, Mr. Rick, and once the council approves of the co-sponsorship, my only concern is to have someone clean it up or to pay to have someone clean it up. That'll be my only concern.
We will take that responsibility along with our vendors to make sure that that is cleaned before we leave the property every Saturday after 4 o'clock.
All right. Mr. Cavell?
I can make a motion that the city co-sponsors the farmers market for One Crowley.
Okay, offered by Mr. Cavell, seconded by Mr. Woolridge. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council.
Is there any more business to come before the public building? Yes, Mr.
While I'm here, Dr. Proctor asked me to remind everyone, and I believe Alderman Core had mentioned it earlier, and if Alderman Martin would like to go further with this, I can turn it over to him if he has anything further to add. This Saturday, June 13th, there will be 2 starting points, one at St. Teresa's Catholic Church Park, one at Levy Park. 2 groups will get together and march to North Parkinson, unifying at North Parkinson, turning north and heading to the court circle for a rally. The rally is in support and celebrating the life of George Floyd. I think we need to really go into the specifics. He was the gentleman that was murdered in Minnesota a couple of weeks ago. More than that, though, we want to foster unity in Crowley. We want, as a community, to show our brethren, our friends, our brothers and our sisters in the black community that as a whole, Crowley stands with them and recognizes their fight that they go through every day. We would ask that all of you, as elected officials, be there. Mr. Martin has requested and suggested that each alderman from each district and ward get together and make a combined statement, and maybe, for example, Mr. Cavell and Ms. Stringfellow could get together and have a combined statement, and Alderwoman Stringfellow reads it. Mr. Core and Mr. Fogelman get together, and Mr. Core reads the statement. We would encourage all of our elected officials to be there to not only show Crowley that you support the unity, but I think it would also just be something good to show the rest of your council members and the community as a whole where you stand as far as for unity in this town. Ms. Martin, did I miss anything on that?
Well, yeah, you missed a lot. First of all, not one time this week, and I know it was a short meeting and we had things going. I don't need Ward 1 to come together, because when you ran for your elected seat, each one of you had to be elected. Now, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to do a joint, but I've always said if I have something to say, my colleague, Councilman Weir, is right here. I'm pretty sure he has something he wants to say as well. So I would ask the council members here, state the cards. Something you want to say, you say it. All right? How you feel? Nobody knows how you feel but you in itself. Another thing, we were privy to a stage, if I'm correct on that?
That is correct. I spoke with the mayor yesterday, and we have a 16 by 16 foot stage that's going to be, I'm assuming, erected tomorrow, since city workers are off on Friday and Saturday. I'm assuming that's going to be erected on the south side of the lawn on Decatur Parish Courthouse. For anyone wondering, I spoke with Brian Morrell's secretary, and I also spoke with Chief Broussard, and we have received permission from the police jury to use that area of the courthouse, along with their electrical outlet that is located at the flagpole on the south side of the courthouse lawn.
Well, with that being said, with the stage, we had the conversation at the meeting about the sound system. Well, I'm here to tell you right now, my insurance told me straight up, you bring that $25,000 system outside, and you burn something into it, they'll call us. So what I'm asking is this: the city has, I'm not sure if we have a sound system, but we need to come together, even if we have to do like what we done with the banner pass to have, to probably get.
Sound system's been taken care of.
Been taken care of? Good. Not that I didn't want to do it, okay, but when, y'all understand the concept, when the insurance company say no, it's no. But one other thing that I want to pass on, that we had a meeting of the minds. Our great Bishop Proctor was there, Dr. Proctor was there. We had people there that for whatever the question is, we had answers for. And the reason why I bring up especially the Bishop, you know, a lot of people don't know this, but the Bishop is big. Okay, it's a big thing. And we have the pleasure of having him here in the city of Crowley. He also served on the school board. But a lot of people don't know him and Ms. Proctor, as president of the Louisiana Municipal Black Caucus, they were the only ones in the South that received my presidential award. Am I right now? Okay? That's the most prestigious award the president can give. And we want other people. If you know people that can carry a message of hope and faith, we want them here. You know? But at the end of the day, peaceful, quiet, sober. Let's make it something that the city is going to remember. Okay? because at the end of the day, we work for all the people in the city of Crowley. So if there's something that needs to be said, let it be said. And I'm hoping and praying that everybody come, because I've always said you only get one time to give a first impression. And the best thing in life to do is always, when you make that first impression, make it your best. Because people remember you for who you are. And I think that covers everything. Hope to have water out there and a few other things that y'all can get with some people. We'll be donating water. Let's just come together. You know, like I tell people all the time, there's not a law in the world against being stupid, just doing stupid things. And once something stupid is done, guess what? All hell breaks loose. So for God be our lead on this, and hoping that everybody come in and just have a good time. Join the good doctor. We can't be doing no that too much hugging going on, and kiss on your own virtue. But we hope that it turns out good. I'm just hoping to pray the weather is good, and everybody, in other words, everybody can like it, no matter who you are. Thank you.
As far as that's concerned, Alderman Martin, thank you very much, you and Alderman Woolridge, for being there Monday, whenever we made the final preparations for that. Also, I was about to, also Alderman Cooler was there. We had, my point is, we had representation from the city council there. A couple of other people I did call, obviously between work and other things going on, other people couldn't be there, and that's totally understandable. But as far as taking the lead on everything, I want to thank Alderman Morton for pardon the pun, stepping up and helping us to settle everything and to set everything in stone for it. Thank you very much. We appreciate your input. That's it. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rick.
Go ahead.
Just real quick, how are we handling the traffic controls? Is that in line up yet?
As far as traffic control, Chief Broussard. I'm sorry, didn't I think Chief Broussard was informed of something earlier, so maybe he can address that at this time.
Well, this one has been set up with my apologies, and I'll explain my apologies in a minute. But this route has been set up. Barricades will be placed on the south side of Parkinson Avenue at 3rd Street, and then barricades will be placed on the streets 4th and 5th. And also, I believe our wonderful fire department will be assisting by placing one of the engines to block traffic southbound on the Court Circle. There will be some other barricades that will block in that area. And I say with my apologies because I was informed this afternoon, or excuse me, it came to my attention that I don't have the authority to shut down streets in the city of Crowley. So when that comes up for July 4th, I don't know what to tell you on that. So this one was done asking forgiveness rather than permission. Allegedly, the city attorney said I have no authority or power to shut down the streets in the city of Crowley.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes, sir.
If you remember that was brought up at the meeting, and I have to give the chief his due, he wasn't sure, but at the time we were trying to get everything galvanized, so that way, if there's any changes to be done, it needs to be done now. I would suggest this, after we come down, is it 4th, we come down 4th Street?
3rd.
Street.
Yes, sir.
Then we walk along the sidewalks. Okay?
Well, I mean, and this one kind of got planned, and I say that for when it comes up for July 4th, because I don't know how we handle that. I'll have to take a look at it tomorrow with that stipulation as to how we're going to handle accidents now and funeral processions and things such as that where streets are blocked. So. But it is set up for Saturday.
Thank you, Chief.
All right.
Okay.
I would have to piggyback on that too.
Everybody know my background. And when you're in a dangerous spot, on a foxhole, you ain't worried about color, you got your back. And it's time for Crowley to really come together. It's sad that we could go to war and die for each other. But when we come back to our local places to live at in the United States, that's when that black and white or racist comes in. My personal opinion, this time that we come together. And this is the start for Crowley and for us to go to bigger and better things. And it goes from the commander-in-chief and all the way to the lowest private. We all need to come together. That's the only comments I get. Please, man.
Kim,
So, there we go. This is my second city council meeting. I know the last one I attended was back, before all this COVID thing. Y'all allowed the public to speak about the greetings from Levy Park, whether people agree with it or not. Y'all didn't really ask the public if it was okay for us to speak on the farmer's market. So I just kind of asked it about.
Sir,
could you give us your name? We don't have a card for you to speak.
Yeah, my name is Ryan Cornell with the United States Postal Service.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And the topic?
The farmer's market. Y'all didn't allow the
Okay.
public to speak on that. Can I speak on it? Is that okay? Okay, wonderful. I just had a few questions. With the city, fronting money towards this thing, from what I understand, y'all will be giving money to help them. Is that true?
That's not the case.
No, it's not the case.
That is not the case. There will be no money exchanged from the city of Crowley.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, in that case, my first question, will y'all be accepting EBT?
I think as
Call yourselves One Crowley. I think it'd be fair to allow every citizen of Crowley to be able to use this farmer's market. If you don't accept EBT, I think that's very unfair.
To address that, One Crowley is not responsible for any payments or payment of taxes. That is on each vendor individually. And if a vendor is set up with some type of card swipe to be able to accept EBT, that would be on them. That is not One Crowley to be accepting payments for anything.
Okay. If you're allowing these people to decide how they charge and whatnot, you're kind of making it a gambling situation. Some of these people will be paying for spots, using these exchanges of currency. What if they don't make the money? Is it just kind of, lose-lose? What happens with that? If this is something for the community, why are we putting out a gamble for these people trying to sell their crops, their produce?
And to address that, as any business, whenever you rent a space or build a space, that is something that you have to pay rent before you can move into a space with no guarantee of selling.
So it's a business.
well,
So this is a business.
We're a nonprofit.
But you just said that this is.
I'm talking about the vendors have a business.
look, first of all, I applaud you for stepping up and asking the question.
Thank you.
As a citizen of Crowley, that's your right.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay? And if the answer is not sufficient, ask another damn question until you get your answer. I would say this to you right now, with all due respect to everybody. If there's fine vendors, and I'm using this term, and I want to make sure, and this is my opinion, only mine, and each one of the vendors are selling the same thing. Okay, listen to me.
Yes, sir.
One vendor, cash only, one vendor, credit card only, one vendor has options or whatever you have, we have. The EBT card is money.
It is, yes.
Only thing it subtracts is the taxes. That person has a right to do one or two things. Either buy from whomever he or she wants, or at the end of the day, it's a done deal.
Go somewhere else, yeah.
Worst case scenario is this: if nobody there accepts the card, and the only people out there to buy half the cards, guess what? Everything that they got going back home with them. Okay? I'm saying this to tell you that whenever you get involved in this, I'll go back to the Rice Festival. I mean, we had bought a booth, and it rained Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
There's a chance that you take. But I agree with the fact that what you just said about question. It's a good question. Because I'm pretty sure there's people out there.
Especially at this time with the
Exactly.
crisis that we're going through. I think there are a lot of
Exactly.
people that don't
Congress is
have jobs that
sending
need to get their
people-
vegetables.
Right.
And if they choose to
Congress-
get it fresh, they should have that available.
Exactly. Congress is sending people these cards. We just got the word to pass out constituents. I'm pretty sure everybody here has it. To start telling people, we don't know what the hurricane season's gonna be like, so you better start getting plans for your emergency, card. Whether you receive stamp or whatever it may be or not. The fact of the matter is, the federal money is saying, we're gonna help you save money by giving you something to buy and put food into your home. Now, I would ask, whoever's planning on selling, Rick, I don't know if you know whoever it is, really, I'm not gonna ask you that question because I'm not gonna put you on that spot. But that's one of the alternatives, and I'll say it like it is. You look at Walmart right now, 98% of the people that's gonna buy in Walmart, they're using these cards.
Yes, sir.
Okay? So if I am one of the vendors, and if I decide that I want to be part of the system and make my money and sell my goods, I'm going to accept any and all methods of payment, long as it's legal.
I hope so, yeah.
That's just my opinion. But I appreciate the fact that you asked that question, because to be quite honest with you, it never dawned on me.
It dawned on me immediately.
Well, thank you, that's the reason why we work for you. Thank you.
Thank you. But that's kind of, thank you for saying that, because it kind of piggybacks on what I'm trying to say, is that if they're trying to do what's best for Crowley, that should be something that they consider. Wouldn't you agree?
Especially with the layoffs, man.
Yes, sir.
Just
Yes,
trying to
sir.
get back together.
So I certainly hope that if they do decide to go through with this farmer's market, they make it available to everybody in this town, no matter what kind of prices they're going to, no matter if they profit from COVID or whether they lost everything to COVID. I hope that if they do this and they want to call themselves Crowley One, and that they want to make a farmer's market available to the public, that I hope that everybody can use it. Now, I guess that also leads me to my next question. He just came up and he said, hey, that's a gamble, it's a business. Well, it's starting to sound like it's a business for you. If you're okay with these people coming in here and making a gamble and paying for these spots, what's coming to the table for you? Why would you want to do this if you're possibly putting the community at risk? That's my question for you.
And a 501c organization is a non-profit organization.
Correct.
So you're not making money at all.
We're not making any money
You
off
shouldn't be, no.
We're not making any money off
So my question is, why would you, if people want to take part in this, and then you say, if you lose, tough luck. I wouldn't really consider that anything good for the community.
I'd like to answer that.
Go ahead,
As chairperson of the farmers market. First and foremost, with all of the negativity
Who your
that's
name
going
is
on.
first?
First and foremost, with all of the negativity that's going on.
Who your name is?
I'm sorry, my name is Katie Alamo. I am the chairperson of the farmers market.
Okay.
With all of the negativity going on, I think that the farmers market is absolutely bringing up the morale of Crowley. I'm not 100% sure why you're opposed to it, and you have the opportunity to come and speak to me about it at any point. We are a 501(c)(3). We do not make a single dollar. All of those dollars are put back into the Crowley community. As Rick mentioned earlier, a lot of money was raised to support a lot of people of Crowley, both black and white, Mexican, of all ethnicities. That money came from somewhere. It came from fundraising. This is basically a fundraising event. We're not making any money off of it by any means, not a single one of us. We're doing it as a community. Rain has a farmer's market. Jennings has a farmer's market. Lafayette has a farmer's market. Crowley is not, at this moment, Crowley does not have anything of that sort. We do have a Tractor Supply. We are not by no means, and that's your question, or the reason that you're opposing it. We are by no means, we have took into consideration the farmer's market at Tractor Supply. We are not trying to compete with them by any means. We have definitely taken that into consideration. We are a larger organization. When we had our meeting, we met and made sure that our farmers market would not dampen the farmers market at Tractor Supply at all. If anything, we'd like to work with them. We would much rather come together, one Crowley. Our whole mission is to come together.
if we can help them at Tractor Supply and they could help us, it would be great. I mean, that's our ultimate goal. It's not to,
Okay.
it's
Mr.
not
Mayor,
to,
can we get order? He was addressing the council. So at least wait, let him talk. He can talk to her after the meeting, something like that. But he was just making an address to us.
I understand that we're getting into a debate, and really we shouldn't have allowed, but anyway.
I'll keep going.
Okay.
I don't know, I just think that it's kind of a shame that someone would talk about this being a fundraiser or anything that's good for the public when Mr. Villageon had just said, you know, hey, if they don't see their crops and they don't do well and they can't accept some form of currency, well, then tough luck. That doesn't sound like anything good for this community whatsoever to me. You're gonna have people coming up. You'll have your turn, sir. You'll have your turn. He did come up and he did say, hey, you know, that's how it goes. If you don't sell this, you don't sell that. So you're gonna come by and you're gonna pay for your spot. And I mean, how does that help the community? How does it help out somebody that's, you're not gonna get farmers over there. Farmers they're already lined up. They're gonna grow their crops and they know exactly where to go. So the people that you're drawing in here are the people with box gardens in their backyard. You're trying to get money from them. You're trying to get them to pay to try and exchange their crops. Well, if they want to do that, they can do that without. We have a garden club in this town. We already have a farmer's market. I don't understand why you want to charge people to try and sell their crops. I'm all for the exchange of crops and people making this a hobby, doing what they like to do. I grow my own things up on my balcony. But I don't think I would put myself at a risk to sell crops or whatever it may be, whether you bake goods, anything. I wouldn't want to take the risk to lose money on my behalf because of something that y'all call something better for the community. I know I'm kind of talking in circles here, but like I said, it's my first time with this microphone. But I just don't think it makes a lot of sense. So, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your comment. All right, let's move on here. Okay.
Is there any more business coming before public business? There being none, public business rest.
Thank you. Next is insurance personnel. Ms. Stringfellow.
Thank you, Mayor. The Insurance and Personnel Committee convened Wednesday, June 3rd. We had a quorum. There were no action items or non-action items.
Okay, thank you. Next, Community and Economic Development Committee, Mr. Reggie.
Thank you, Mayor. Community and Economic Development Committee convened Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020 at 4 p.m. in the council chambers. A quorum was present. Under action items, we had none. And then under non-action items, or do we call that an action item? Because we have to vote on it.
Yes, sir, we have to vote on the co-sponsorship for the 4th of July for Main Street.
Yes, this did not go to committee. It's to
That's correct.
consider co-sponsoring a 4th of July celebration with Crowley Main Street to be held on Saturday, July 4th. I so move.
Offered by Mr. Reggie, seconded by Mr. Cavell. Discussion? Oh, go ahead.
With all due respect to the 4th of July, the chief just got up here and said that you don't know if you'll be able to block the streets. Okay? I'm all for the 4th of July celebration like everybody else, but public safety comes first. So what I'm asking this council to do, and I know it, even if we have to call a special meeting, like Alderman Reggie had said, and I would ask that we make sure that the streets can be closed.
They can be, Mr. Martin. I didn't want to interrupt the chief. The chief, what he was saying was partially correct, and then we found out from the state that the chief has the authority to close the roads.
Well, why didn't you tell him that while he was up there?
He was talking to Mr. Martin, I just said, without interrupting.
No, with all due respect, Mayor, and I'm not going to say a question. Our chief just got up here and apologized, thinking he done something wrong.
No, sir, he did not.
Well, why, he was
I
up
don't know if he
here.
did anything wrong. I was asked the same question.
And all I did was try to find out.
Well, the question is this, did anybody else have the answer to that? I know I didn't. No, I didn't have. The chief
The
just,
chief of police is the chief of police and has the authority to close all of the streets in Crowley.
man, it goes back to, listen, once again, we don't know what the hell is going on. This man just got up there and put the 4th of July in jeopardy. He apologized.
Put the 4th of July in jeopardy.
Well, for one thing he put in jeopardy, he put the March for Saturday in jeopardy. When he mentioned that, we wasn't sure that he could block traffic. Why didn't you say something right then and there? He said, no, chief, you can block the streets. He was right. I mean, unless I'm the only one heard him.
Chief Broussard. Chief Broussard is right there. Chief Broussard,
Yes, sir.
I have to apologize myself. I did find out this afternoon, much later, from the Louisiana State Department of Transportation, that you do have the authority to close the streets.
Well, that's what I thought the Larson Act said, but it was conveyed to me by 2 members of the Main Street Board, so.
Yes, sir, which was the people that were asking me the question, and I did not have the answer at that time. So I'm publicly apologize.
Well, I accept graciously, thank you.
Okay, chief, before you leave.
Yes, sir.
So the march that we are having on Saturday, is it in place now as it was originally?
Yes, sir, it is. Actually, it was going to be in place either way because it was already set up.
Okay.
It was just going to affect future wrecks, future funeral escorts, future whatever that we could block, but now that it's been rectified, everything is good.
Right. As long as I've been participating in the political arena, the chief of police has the final say for public safety. Okay? If he said you need 20 cars on one corner and 5 on the other, that's on him. It's his job to provide. He has the power of making sure that we are all safe. Man, I have a problem with what we're saying. Because the simple fact is,
Okay, thank you, Mr. Martin. I appreciate your concern, and it has been clarified. Mr. Reggie?
Yeah, I'll just finish by saying that
Thank you.
the event was supposed to be from 6 to 8 p.m. underneath the marquee of the Rice Theater. And social distancing will be encouraged and hand sanitizer will be available.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Go ahead.
I do have one question, if I might. I know this came from legal counsel. Where did he get this erroneous advice?
thank you.
Okay.
I have no idea.
I mean, because that's a serious thing that violates the Larson Act that our city attorney, which is legal, should be versed in and well versed in. I know he has probably forgotten more law than others will learn. That's just my concern.
Chief,
Yes, sir.
do you have a part of this ordinance that states, just to clarify, perhaps,
If I may defer to Mr. Luke Dupre.
just to clarify the history?
I put it through Muni Code, I wasn't taking sides or anything, I just really wanted to find out for myself. Section of the Crowley City Ordinance, section 1449 states that all law enforcement officers of the city are invested with the authority to direct, control, or regulate traffic or parking in the city of Crowley. It was in Muni Code, I just wanted to clear that up in case it was, causing any more.
Clear, the room that I've been on the council has always been that way.
Thank you.
And there was no further business to come before Community and Economic Development Committee and the committee recess.
Thank you. Revenue and Finance? Mr. Cavell?
The Revenue and Finance Committee convened on Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020 at 4 p.m. in the council chambers. The quorum was present. There were no action items. At this time, I'd like to present a resolution of the Mayor and the Board of Aldermen of the City of Crowley, City of Parish, Louisiana, ordering the calling of a special election to be held in the City of Crowley, Acadia Parish, Louisiana, for the submission of a proposition to authorize the collection and levy of a hotel occupancy tax not to exceed 5% upon paid occupancy of hotel motel rooms and all property subject to the taxation situated in the said city for the purpose of promotion of tourism, recreation and culture, economic development, financing, including the issuance of bonds and other forms of indebtedness, construction, maintenance, and operation of the convention and conference center and the related infrastructure, including the acquisition of property therefore, and to conduct and hold events, fairs, and festivals for the promotion of tourism in the city, and to provide for all matters relative thereto and in connection therewith. And I so move.
Offered by Mr. Cavell, offered by Mr. Cavell, seconded by Mr. Reggie. Discussion?
Mayor, just want to clarify, you states that this didn't go to committee, but we spoke about this previously at prior meetings of the council. Just want to clarify that.
Yes, sir. Mr. Cavell?
Do we know when this will be on the ballot?
I predict, approximately November.
I think it's actually December is what he wrote on the.
Okay.
The reason it didn't go to committee was that it was actually voted on and signed by the the president of the legislature on June 1st.
Offered by you and seconded by Mr. Reggie. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Next, I have a resolution by the mayor and the Board of Aldermen in the City of Crowley, Acadia Parish, Louisiana, introducing a proposed ordinance to amend the budgets for the City of Crowley for the fiscal year beginning September 1, 2019 and ending August 31, 2020, and to provide for all matters relative thereto, and to repeal all ordinances or parts of ordinances and calling for the public hearing concerning the same. And I so move.
Offered by Mr. Cavell,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Primo. Discussion. Yes, sir.
It doesn't have it has totals of negatives and positives, but it doesn't have a wholly negative or wholly positive elements. I finished.
Am I gonna be voting on it until the next council?
This is only an introduction. This is only an introduction, and Ms. Krager had prepared all of this information for you in case that you would have any questions and need any answers on them. And we have until July's meeting to be able to get those done and those answered.
Yes, this is just to introduce it for a public hearing,
Yes.
not for discussion of
That is
the
correct.
subject matter.
No, sir, it is just for introduction. Yes, sir.
Now, I was just wondering, last night, at the police jury meeting, they discussed the CARES Act money that they would be receiving from the government, and I was wondering if the city of Crowley is going to be receiving any of this money, if that would play a role in us having to, or having not to amend the budget.
We are, if I'm not mistaken, Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, we are applying and have no answer yet.
That's it, yeah.
No, sir.
Sarah's working on it, I don't know exactly the dollar amount she's come up with.
Maybe we'll have that by the next meeting.
It's very possible. Good. And again, this is only an introduction. Yes, sir.
Okay, those of you who've been following the legislature, had the pleasure of being over there yesterday, and the question was asked, do you know what's going on with the bill? I forgot, Senate bill, which one it was, might have been the House, AG, I'm not sure. But right now, you have the Louisiana Treasurer wants to control that money. Okay? And if he had his way, I can tell you right now, local government ain't gonna get a damn thing. Okay? Now, I'll be calling John, didn't get a chance to talk to him on yesterday. But we need to know what the heck is going on. This special meeting that they have now, this special session, there's a reason why it's going on. Okay? I don't know if it hit the television yet, but I can tell you it was such an uproar over there when we're trying to tell them that money should be coming back to local government to cover the cost of whatever it takes from the pandemic to fire department and police department, making sure that everything is where it needs to be at and everybody's in line, and all the tax revenue that the city is losing. And they have the audacity up there to say, well, you know what? We got things in the state we need to handle first. It's called the budget. Okay? This is one-time money. You ain't gonna get no more shot at this money. Once they dissolve this money, all hell will break loose to get another dollar out of it. So, before we get to talking about budgets and everything else, we need to find out what is going on in our legislature. You know, right now, if you ask me to amend anything with the budget, I'm gonna tell you no, because I don't know what the heck the budget's gonna be. What's the losses gonna be? So, I would say this, before we do anything with trying to do a budget, let's see exactly what true money we have.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Mr. Cabell? You done?
Need a vote.
Okay. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Jeff Cabell,
Yes.
Ray Ford,
Yes.
Clint Creeder,
Yes.
Bob Coleman, Herman Martin,
No.
Stephen Primo,
Yes.
Sammy Reggie,
Yes.
Tim Stringfellow,
No.
and Garden Brewer.
No.
5 yeas, 2 noes,
Thank you.
3 noes, sorry, 2
All right.
There's no further business coming before the Revenue and Finance Committee, the committee recess. And I'll move the meeting adjourned.
Second.
All heard and seconded by Ms. Stringfellow. All in favor?
Yeah, but I'm saying, but mine is somebody goes to, I know what's going on over there. It's after public hearing. Let's put everything together.
His comment is straight.
Now, for the 4th of July, they said, what they may do on the 4th of July is block off the parking, which are evidence to abide by. State troopers down there. And they already got the
Yeah, it's just, I pay my 30, 20, 30 to get